Wishes well doing, and welcome back to After They Found Atlantis. Today we're talking about the conflict, the fight between Randall Carlson and Jimmy Bright. One says Atlantis is in the RICHAT structure in Africa, and the other is saying that no, it's the Azores in the Atlantic. Where was the capital of Atlantis? For all you out there wanting to know who's the winner, and may they step up and be the new Atlantis champion. In 2018, the internet became a buzz. A video was released by Jimmy Corsetti of the Bright Insight channel showing the location of the fabled lost city of Atlantis. The location? The Sahara Desert. It was the Eye of the Saharra where the city was located. The video inspired YouTubers from all over the world to seek out this desolate, remote location. Bright Insight's videos about the Eye of the Saharra being the location of Atlantis covered all the bases about Atlantis. All of the criteria given by Plato's account were met. The ring city, the elephants, the mountains to the north, the exit in the southwest, everything was there. The first king of the region was called Atlas. The map of Herodotus showing that this region was called Atlantis. Everything was there. The shoal of mud in the way, the red, white, and black stones, the water springing from the center island, hot and cold. This was Atlantis. This had to have been Atlantis, and the world was never the same. Almost 150 years earlier, the same thing happened when Ignatius Donnelly released his book, Atlantis, the Antediluvian World, in 1875. In this book, Ignatius Donnelly proposed the center of the Atlantic Ocean is where Atlantis was. The book was a runaway bestseller, and his theories about Atlantis and its location was widely regarded as correct amongst all Atlantis researchers until the mid-1970s. When the experts determined in a book, Atlantis, Fact or Fiction, that there was no sunken island in the middle of the Atlantic, nor could there ever have been. And so, all of the Atlantis researchers went looking all over the world for other locations, and Ignatius Donnelly's theories were thrown out the window. Enter Randall Carlson, a renegade scholar who said, wait, the 1970s book could have been wrong. all these years searching in all the wrong places for all the wrong reasons. There was a possibility of Atlantis being in the middle of the Atlantic. The location, the Azores, the last remaining parts of the sunken island of Atlantis. So who is correct? Where was the capital of Atlantis? The Sahara or the Azores? Let's investigate. Plato tells us that the Atlantean Empire stretched all across the Atlantic Ocean to the opposite continent from the Pillars of Hercules. So therefore, both locations lie within the Empire of Atlantis. And furthermore, Plato accounted that the Atlantis Empire subjugated those within the Pillars of Hercules all the way up to Egypt. So this might explain why Herodotus had called that region of Mauritania Atlantis, because it does fall within the empire. The main question must be, was the Eye of the Saharra filled with water at the time of Atlantis? Was it an island then? Today it lies hundreds of feet above sea level. But if it was indeed filled with water at the time, then it could have been a part of Atlantis, as it would seem to have been a perfect harbor for the naval empire. The question is, was it a colony or the center city? This power came forth out of the Atlantic Ocean. There was an island situated in front of the straits, which you call the Pillars of Hercules. The Atlantic Empire originated in front of the Pillars of Hercules. Here it must be noted that R.G. Bury's translation says that the empire originated from a distant point in the Atlantic Ocean, according to his translation, which differs from Benjamin Jowett's translation subtly. But both translations make it clear that it is an island and not a peninsula as some suggest, because here in the dialogue it says the whole country is only a long promontory extending into the sea away from the rest of the continent, when talking about Greece and ancient Athens. So it is clear that the translations know the difference between an island and a peninsula or promontory. The island of Atlantis was said to have been larger than the extent of Libya and Asia combined. Here in Herodotus's map, we could see this might have been the understanding of an island at that time. The largest discrepancy in the Eye of the Saharra being the location of the capital city of Atlantis, according to Plato, is that it is not underwater, for the account tells us that the island sank into the sea in one day and one night. So, in the 11,600 years since the catastrophe, the land had to have been pushed back up above sea level after sinking or being washed by a tsunami. This is the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, a great conjunction of three of the Earth's largest tectonic plates. There is geological evidence that this sunken landmass was once above water at the end of the last glacial period. This area is where you would expect to see Atlantis, according to the dialogues of Plato, for it fits the exact location he describes better than any other. This is why Ignatius Donnelly, the father of modern Atlantis research, proposed this area as to being the location of the sunken island of Atlantis.
For these histories tell of a mighty power which unprovoked made an expedition against the whole of Europe and Asia, and to which your city put an end. This power came forth out of the Atlantic Ocean, for in those days the Atlantic was navigable.
Okay, so this power came out of the Atlantic Ocean. Here's the Atlantic Ocean. This is where the power came out of.
And there was an island situated in front of the straits which are by you called the Pillars of Heracles.
And there was an island situated in front of the straits by which you call the Pillars of Hercules. So there's an island out here somewhere, and it's situated in front of the Pillars of Hercules, which is right here. This is the Pillars of Hercules.
The island was larger than Libya and Asia put together, and was the way to other islands.
Now this island was bigger than Libya and Asia put together. There's an island here bigger than that, and was the way to other islands. And was the way to other islands.
And from these you might pass to the whole of the opposite continent.
And from these you might pass to the whole of the opposite continent. So there's islands here, and from those islands you might pass to the opposite continent,
which surrounded the true ocean.
The continent surrounds the true ocean.
For this sea which is within the straits of Heracles is only a harbor, having a narrow entrance.
For this sea which is within the straits of Hercules is only a harbor, having a narrow entrance. Here is the narrow entrance, and here is the sea within the straits of Hercules.
But that other is a real sea, and the surrounding land may be most truly called a boundless continent.
But that other is a real sea. A real sea. And the surrounding land may truly be called a boundless continent. The boundless continent.
Now in this island of Atlantis there was a great and wonderful empire which had rule over the whole island and several others, and over parts of the continent, and, furthermore, the men of Atlantis had subjected the parts of Libya within the columns of Heracles as far as Egypt, and of Europe as far as Tyrrhenia.
So the empire of Atlantis had rule over islands here and over parts of the continent. And they subjected the place within the Pillars of Hercules. This is where they conducted their war. So, where do you think the capital of Atlantis was? We are happy just to think that if you think Atlantis was real, then you're in the same boat as us. And no matter where you think it is, the capital or Atlantis itself, we are all on the same team. So let's get out there and find the lost island of Atlantis.